When was the last time you were bored? No, like think about it. When was the last time you sat in your thoughts? No distractions, no phones, no music, just complete boredom. Because based on a lot of other people's answers, you'd think being bored was physically painful.
I forgot my AirPods yesterday, and the first 5 minutes into my shift, I was in my thoughts, right? I gave myself a migraine.
Today, it seems like doing something as simple as absolutely nothing is a lot harder for us than it should be, to the point where even sleeping feels like an annoying waste of time.
I hate sleeping because I just am like, this is a waste of my time. I'm bored. That's how I feel every time when I'm going to sleep.
There are a lot of things in life that may feel like a task, but they're good for us. Things like studying, maybe exercising, getting sleep, those type of necessities. But it seems like no one understands how necessary boredom is until it's gone.
Unpopular take, I think we're losing individuality and I think we're losing emotional awareness because we've lost constructive boredom.
And it's the internet's response to this that is very telling, and it's led to people retaliating by literally raw dogging boredom.
I raw dogged boredom for 12 hours.
Well, Gen Z is learning the art of patience in a new TikTok trend called raw dogging boredom.
It's also a way to mentally detox from constant digital distractions and learn how to be comfortable alone.
If you ask me, the trend is only one half of the story. The other half is figuring out how we stopped making room for something so natural. Because the more life gives us something to do, that leaves less room for us to do nothing, which might be changing us a lot more than we realize. Welcome to the Girl Talk You Didn't Know You Needed. Now, I'm not saying you have to subscribe. You're classy. I know you don't just give those away for free, but hopefully at the end of this video, we become bestie enough for you to take that next step. Now, the weirdest part about making this video was trying to research the history of boredom, and not because it was boring. No, okay. But because there really wasn't much to find. Boredom, in the way we think about it today, wasn't a conversation back then. And don't get me wrong, the feeling existed, but people understood it very differently.
If you went back a few thousand years and told someone in ancient Egypt or Babylon that you were bored, they probably wouldn't even know what you meant. The concept, as a distant emotional state, wasn't part of the lexicon. In those days, life was overwhelmingly shaped by ritual, tradition, and the immediate demands of survival. Your day was dictated by the sun, the seasons, and the need for food and shelter.
In other words, life already gave people something to do. They had a lot of things to survive. They had a lot more labor and family duties and rituals, all the ancient stuff, and their leisure time was already spoken for. But over the centuries, people gained something previous generations didn't have much of. That is, free time. And that started raising a question. What happens when people have nothing to do? And by the 19th century, society thought it had the answer.
With the very 19th century moralistic mindset of idle hands are the devil's playthings, and the concept of, well, it's one thing for the wealthy to have leisure time. They understand how to handle that. But what happens when we give that to the working class? What horrible things could they possibly do with their leisure time?
As we can see, having free time, being lazy, was basically seen as a sin. They really looked at the less fortunate and decided them having free time was too much. They were expected to keep themselves busy, but back then, that wasn't hard. There were men going to war, working long hours, building, farming, providing. And then there were women cooking, cleaning, raising children, sewing, washing clothes by hand. Everybody and their mama has something to do, something to keep them occupied. But as we all know, the world spins a bit better with convenience, which meant the average household was able to spend less time on everyday tasks.
The very point of convenience was to give humans back more time. I mean, if we cycle back to something as simple as doing your washing, this used to be a time-consuming and arduous task, bruising your knees as you scrubbed ferociously against the washboard. Then came the invention of the washing machine. All of a sudden, the domestic housewife housewife's time was freed up. They were introduced to a new concept: leisure time. Something as simple as the washing machine was starting to be seen as almost a form of resistance.
Now let's get something clear. No one is complaining about inventions. Let's say, for instance, washboards evolving into washing machines. I'm pretty sure we all appreciate just having to throw our clothes in the washer, press a button, and walk away. But freeing up time already had this devil's work reputation attached to it. And now inventions were doing exactly that. Inventions were solving problems and shortcuts were saving a bit more time, but people were nervous about what free time could open the door to. And by the time the Great Depression happened, people had no other option but to find out. They had time on their hands, but this wasn't your average kick your feet up, peaceful leisure time. It most definitely could have been the economy, the lack of employment, and hope for a better world that caused people to mentally spiral. But the blame shifted more so to the boredom that spawned out of it.
The Depression had introduced the idea of forced leisure, where these people literally didn't have jobs, could not find work, and had nothing else to do because they didn't have money to do enjoyable things. They couldn't just go on vacation. And while society at the time seems to recognize that there were a lot of mental health problems during the 1930s, they blamed it on the fact that it was a universal effect of boredom, that these people were depressed not because they literally didn't have a job or money, but because they didn't have something useful to do.
So there it is, another example of boredom being painted as the problem. You'll see this a lot as we go on. Boredom was beginning to represent something much bigger, and people became more concerned with its consequences than the feeling itself. Idle hands could lead to trouble. It was associated with the enemy, and too much unoccupied time started making people feel hopeless. And some of the more advanced thinkers were already noticing that the real issue wasn't boredom itself, but how afraid we were becoming of feeling it.
I was really fascinated reading Bertrand Russell in the 1930s. He talked about boredom not being more prevalent than it was in the past, but that our fear of boredom has grown.
How interesting is it that even in the 1930s, almost 100 years ago, there wasn't as much entertainment as there is today, and people were already noticing that people were becoming afraid of being bored. And then on top of that, they had an out because technology, inventions, things that took people's time started giving them less. So the question became even bigger. What are we actually doing with this time we're getting back? Well, once modern technology entered the conversation,
it's also a striving for things to be easy. And I think that is driven by technology in our world. Every single thing that is invented now is for the purposes of making jobs quicker, easier, giving the human more time. And I'm all for that. I don't want to be out there with a washboard, but I don't know where we draw the line, because the whole point about releasing human time, because we've got these gadgets now that do things for us, I thought was so that we could connect with people.
Convenience was now changing every part of everyday life. And speaking of making one very necessary part of life a bit more convenient, this part of today's video is sponsored by Chime, America's #1 choice for banking. Lately, I've been trying to be a lot more intentional with my money, because between groceries, gas, and traveling, and also the little things that pop up, it adds up a lot faster than I expected. And that's why I like using my Chime card, because I can earn 5% cash back on any category I choose. Now, I personally choose groceries since obviously I have to eat, but now I'm getting 5% cash back on top of that. And that's real money coming back to you on purchases you were already gonna make. But life, as we all know it, definitely changes. So if I'm traveling more one month or spending groceries more on another, I can always switch my category, because Chime adapts to my lifestyle. I took a flight to Las Vegas earlier this month, and I love that the Chime card comes with travel perks like airport lounge access with no monthly fees and no minimum balance. Join the million using Chime today. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to open a new Chime checking account today. Thank you, Chime, for sponsoring today's video. So now that we've tapped into the concept of boredom, I want to tap into the things that came along over time that made boredom go extinct. People were still going outside and gathering in crowds. People were still connecting with others, but entertainment was just becoming a bigger part of how they did it. And this is important because keep in mind, earlier, Nicole Rudolph explained that leisure had a class attached to it. Wealthy people could have free time because they were seen as people who knew how to handle it. Ordinary, poor people having that same free time made society nervous. But it wasn't long before the same people society had been so worried about now had entertainment of their own.
The audience for these films originally, of course, was the vaudeville audience. Cost a quarter, 50 cents, which was a lot of money in those days.
But immigrant entrepreneurs like Adolf Zugor were sure they could draw a broader audience into theaters and make more money by charging less.
And suddenly it became like a craze.
And now that entertainment had become affordable, it was getting around fast. People finally had something to do with their extra time, so boredom felt a little less threatening. I will say, some people were still side-eyeing what all that time was going towards.
The world's first radio audience was in the making.
I can't understand what that boy does with all his time. Fooling with wires and that silly thing on his head.
Yes, regular programs did create a widespread desire for radio sets. So much so, in fact, that manufacturers couldn't meet demands. People began to expect interesting programs on the air. Radio broadcasting became an industry, which kept pace with the trend of the time.
There was high demand for entertainment, even while people still didn't really know how to feel about it. But after years of war, sacrifice, and going without, by 1945, nobody was looking at endless entertainment and thinking about what it might do to their attention span 50 years later. TV gave them an out.
1945, the war over. After 4 years of unparalleled war effort, denial, sacrifice, the American public hungry for the rewards of peace. And television, with its promise of endless hours of enjoyment, entertainment, was part of the peacetime dream.
At the time, TV couldn't have been seen as some kind of distraction because it was too good to turn away from. It's like putting a hot meal in front of somebody that hasn't ate all day and expecting them not to eat. It was exciting because it gave people something to look forward to after the day was over. People were rearranging their nights around it, leaving places early and rushing home so they wouldn't miss what was coming on. And that says a lot about how quickly TV could take over the people's attention. And it also says a lot about how entertainment was becoming the answer for what to do when you had nothing to do.
The impact was felt in every part of life. In New York, during the Jack Benny show, water usage dropped dramatically, then promptly surged when it was over. On Thursday nights, restaurants saw business drop off by 8 o'clock as people rushed home for Amos and Andy. All over New York, department stores and bars were filled with transfixed viewers.
But TV could only take up so much time of the day. Imagine being able to walk entertainment around with you. People could listen to music or listen to the radio on the train, during a walk, or anywhere else where their mind would normally stay still.
The Walkman, or I call it the walk person, to be non-gender specific, seems to protect the wearer from the outside world. It's as if they're invisible. The Walkman is a vivid symbol of our time. It provides a concrete image of alienation, suggesting an implicit hostility to and isolation from the environment in which it is worn. The Walkman is primarily a way of escaping from a shared experience or environment.
She makes it sound so poetic. I really love the way she worded that. And in a way, it is poetic. And kind of like a dark, eerie way. Because the Walkman, as she stated, protected the wearer from the outside world. But think about how the outside world is also a place where people have to be present and wait and just think. And now all three are easier to avoid.
And there are now more ways than ever to avoid boredom.
With Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, not to mention my chronic news habit, waiting in line, sitting in a coffee shop, stopped at a traffic light, many people reach for their phones to stave off boredom. And nowhere is sacred.
Do you ever just let yourself be bored?
No, I generally don't.
I need y'all to see what's happening. For years, boredom has already been tied to laziness, trouble, hopelessness, and people having too much time on their hands. So of course, no one wants to feel bored, and having something to remove that boredom feels like a reward. Almost as rewarding as the dopamine rush we get from every buzz, ping, refresh, and notification.
All of the products and services around you are specifically designed to keep you from feeling true boredom. Today, we've moved from a world of passive tools to ones of persuasive, addictive technology. They buzz, ping, scroll, and glow. They're steering you.
I can't count the number of times I've subconsciously just picked up my phone when I'm doing nothing because doing nothing feels illegal. Sometimes I pick up my phone, I open it, I go through apps that I just closed out just to realize that I didn't even want anything. Our attention gets pulled in a lot of directions and it doesn't have time to settle on nothing. Literally just nothing. Everything is fast paced, so I think our brains expect that pace everywhere else.
Psychologist Dr. Jeff Kadir says digital media affects brain chemistry.
Now we're almost trained not to focus on one thing, but to just keep on going, getting that dopamine hit.
This research, which highlights findings from 64 other studies, highlights how bored young people are today. Teens and college students report feeling more bored than they did a decade ago. In the U.S., high school students reported a steady rise in boredom from 2010 to 2017.
And after years of treating boredom like something we needed to escape, our brains are starting to get bored even faster. But we're interrupting boredom so quickly that we never get to see what comes after that uncomfortable part. And the crazy part is, every step society has taken to get rid of boredom seems harmless on its own. We've created new inventions and added more convenience in our life. This is good. We have more entertainment than ever before, and we also don't have to wait for anything. We can get instant gratification, instant answers at any moment. So of course, no one knows how to be bored anymore. We don't have to be.
I genuinely think nobody knows how to be bored anymore. Back then, we had to do different things to just entertain ourselves in between hunts, in between, we would walk for hours per day, find something, eat it, and then what do? Then the iPhone came out, and now nobody really has to be bored anymore.
And this is exactly why we tapped into the past, because even though boredom wasn't technically a thing because they had too much to do to be bored, we have so much stimulation in our lives, and then on top of that, the creators of these devices, apps, etc., have built them to be so addictive that trying to go through everyday life without them is now a hassle for a lot of people. If the line gets too long, we're gonna pull out our phones. It starts getting a little too quiet, we're gonna pull out that phone. It's almost like it's inevitable.
Literally, the moment we stand in line, or sit in a car, or are stuck in a traffic, or are just left alone with our thoughts for 2 seconds, we immediately reach for stimulation, for scrolling, for social media, for music, for anything at all to fill the emptiness that we don't want to deal with anymore.
And sometimes this can be dangerous because that muscle memory has some people pulling out their phones in times when they shouldn't. Yes, it's what our brains expect us to do, but habits have a funny way of following us everywhere. Sometimes in times where even looking away for a second can be detrimental.
Giving her a ticket, she's on her phone.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
If you can't drive 15 minutes down the road to your destination without picking up your phone to text somebody back, to scroll on social media, you have a problem. Oh, but I'm at a red light. Why are you looking down?
The fact that some people can't even stop at the red light to check their phone is 1, terrifying, and 2, terrifying. And while I can't judge, not in the fact that I pick up my phone at the red light, but that muscle memory to pick up the phone, I can't judge, because a lot of the time it's like we're reaching for our phones automatically, like robots. It's like our hands already know what to do before we can even catch up.
You ever notice when you pick up your phone and without even thinking about it, your fingers instantly open up TikTok? It's pretty scary that your fingers know what you want before you do. If I have social media, I like to hide it on different parts of my phone so my muscle memory can't instantly click on it.
I don't even know why I pick up my phone. I don't get any messages. I'm picking up my phone for what reason?
And hey, maybe it isn't just because these devices are so addictive. The phones have their part, but there's a bigger story here, and I think it's what the phone is filling in. Quiet time.
I've recently been thinking a lot about how I don't know how to sit in silence. I always have something playing. I always have Netflix playing in the background, whether it's while I'm cooking, I'm showering, while I'm getting ready for bed. I always wondered why that is, that I don't want to be alone with my thoughts.
Being uncertain about silence is normal. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But this conversation gets even more interesting when people start talking about boredom like it's dangerous. There are people stating that it's not safe for them to be bored because wild things start happening. And this ties back so seamlessly into the idea that when you're bored, you make bad decisions. Except now it's people avoiding boredom so that they can avoid the night after.
As women, we do not need to be idle for too long, and we do not need to be bored for too long. I don't know about you, but I can recall me messing with men out of boredom and being put in situations I could have completely avoided had I been busy, had I had a hobby, had I allowed myself to figure out what it is that I like to do on my free time. But instead, no, I got too bored, I got too idle, so I decided to go find a man to pass the time.
This is some valid advice, okay? Having hobbies, maximizing your time, finding purpose, all of that sounds great. But at the same time, we should also still be able to exist in our own company without feeling like boredom is automatically going to ruin our lives. A lot of people fear what boredom will turn into, and that in turn has led to people trying to just eliminate it altogether. Now people are making lists of things to do before boredom even has the chance to exist.
Girl, you're boring as so let me give you some hobbies that are going to make you more interesting, more elegant, and more educated.
I truly don't think that you should ever be bored, so rapid fire off the top of my head, here are some things that you could be doing this week so that you don't have any moments where you're like, oh my god, I have nothing to do.
Now this has made me wonder, why not just wait it out? Just wait it out and just see what happens when you're bored for longer than what you're comfortable with.
I've noticed that all of us, me included, we barely let our minds kind of just exist anymore. I honestly think boredom used to be something really important. That's when you think, reflect, notice things, even come up with your best ideas. But now we avoid boredom all the time, like it's something bad.
So what happens if we actually find the solution to boredom and stop trying to fight it? Well, there's a trend going around on TikTok where people are now trying to find out.
I've heard of this trend where people are raw dogging boredom in order to become more productive, increase their attention spans, and improve their overall lives. Raw dogging boredom simply means that you're allowing yourself to be bored for a certain amount of time without exposing your brain to micro reward stimuluses like your phone.
People are voluntarily sitting in silence, no music, podcasts, Netflix, no scrolling, no distractions. And if I'm being honest with y'all, this sounds like the most uncomfortable thing ever. You thought I was going to be positive? No. Only because think about what all we discussed. Think about our day and age. My finger would be itching to pick up my phone. But believe it or not, there are a lot of cases of people coming out and saying it's the wellness hack of the century to just sit completely still.
My hot take is that boredom is a skill we all need to relearn. For the last 7 days, I've been boredom maxing for 20 minutes to see if the scientific research was true. And it is. I'm less anxious, less stressed, my attention span is back, and I'm actually having creative ideas again. Like, I can actually take in what's around me.
People spend 15 minutes doing absolutely nothing and leave feeling like they spent time with someone they hadn't talked to in a while. Themselves.
People are terrified of just sitting with themselves. And I think one of the biggest issues people have is that because they're overstimulated, they're kind of conditioned not to be quiet. Most people know the least amount about the person they spend the most time with, which is themselves. If you learn the most about yourself, sitting in silence.
Truthfully, what a take, and it sounds so contradicting. How do I not know myself? I'm with myself every day. Well, a lot of people don't spend time with themselves, aka their thoughts, and it shows very prevalent today. We see so many people looking and doing the exact same thing others are doing. They're thinking just like so many other people, and it's getting harder to tell the difference between what we actually think and what we've picked up from everyone else. And maybe that's because we're giving ourselves fewer chances to actually hear our own thoughts. Now, I'm not telling you to throw your phone away and sit in silence all day, but maybe, and I'm also telling myself this too, I'm not judging anyone, maybe we should see what happens when we give our minds time to wander. Because maybe you, yes, you, I'm talking to you, you just might be the next philosopher of your friend group, all because you let yourself be bored. Thanks for tuning into the Girl Talk you didn't know you needed. Now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, whatever classy people like you do before heading to the next video, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.